Apple did not just make Siri smarter. They made it harder to leave. That is the real story behind everything Apple announced at WWDC 2026. Not the new features, not the updated design, not the faster animations or the smoother transitions or the slider that lets you adjust how transparent your taskbar looks. Those are details. The story is what Apple is building underneath all of those details. Quietly, deliberately, feature by feature, app by app, device by device. Everyone is comparing the new Siri to ChatGPT. Every review, every recap, every reaction video is framing this as a race. Apple versus the rest of the AI world. And how far behind are they? That is the wrong question. And asking the wrong question is exactly what Apple is counting on. Because Apple is not trying to build the smartest AI in the world. They are trying to build the AI that knows the most about you. They are building the AI you cannot leave. And with everything they announced at WWDC 2026, they just got significantly closer to finishing it. Chapter 1. Why Apple cannot win the normal way. OpenAI, Google, Anthropic. These companies are competing on raw model intelligence, reasoning, coding, complex problem solving, the ability to understand and generate at a level that keeps improving with each new release. These are the benchmarks the AI world cares about. The leaderboards, the evaluations, the tests that determine which model is the smartest in the room. Apple is behind in that race. That is not an opinion. That is the reason Apple struck a deal with Google, using Gemini family models to power parts of Apple Intelligence. The company that spent years telling you privacy was a feature, that your data stays on your device, that they would never need to rely on outside AI. That company went to Google. Because building a frontier AI model from scratch is one of the hardest and most expensive things in technology right now. And Apple, for all its engineering brilliance, was not winning that fight. So Apple made a different choice. Instead of competing on what the AI knows about the world, they are competing on what the AI knows about you. Your iMessages, every conversation, your calendar, not just appointments, but the context around them, who is involved, what you said about it in messages. Your photos, indexed and searchable by person, place, and moment. Your emails, your call history, your location patterns, your health data from Apple Watch, your browsing history, your screen in real time, your camera, whatever is in front of you right now. No other AI has that. ChatGPT may know the internet. Siri knows your life. That is a completely different kind of useful, and it is the foundation of everything Apple is building. Chapter 2. Personal context is the new lock-in. For years, Apple's lock-in was social, the blue bubble, iMessage, the slight friction of being the green bubble in a group chat full of iPhone users. It sounds trivial. It was not trivial. It kept millions of people on iPhones because leaving meant leaving the conversation, leaving the thread, leaving the group, leaving the photos that only shared properly between iPhones. That was the old wall. The new wall is personal context. Here is what that means in practice. You ask Siri to find the restaurant your friend recommended last month. Siri searches your messages, finds the conversation, pulls the name, and gives it to you instantly. You ask Siri to help you prepare for a flight. Siri finds the confirmation in your email, checks the gate in your calendar, and surfaces everything before you even open an app. You ask Siri to build a shortcut that messages your partner your ETA every time you leave work. Siri builds the automation, connects it to Maps, and sets it up in seconds. Each of these feels like convenience, and it is convenience. It is genuinely useful. But underneath that convenience, something else is happening. Every time Siri uses your messages to answer a question, you are reinforcing the habit of keeping your conversations in Apple's ecosystem. Every time Siri pulls from your calendar, you are building a workflow that lives inside Apple's infrastructure and nowhere else. Every shortcut that works seamlessly deepens your dependency on that infrastructure. The more useful Siri becomes, the more of your life moves into the Apple ecosystem. And the more of your life is in the Apple ecosystem, the more you lose if you leave. The old lock-in was blue bubbles. The new lock-in is personal context. And personal context is infinitely harder to replace than a chat color. Chapter 3. The hardware catch and the iCloud catch. Apple Intelligence sounds like a software story. Underneath it is a hardware story. The most advanced version of the new Siri, the expressive voice, the most capable on-device model, the full experience Apple demonstrated on stage, is limited to the newest devices with enough RAM and processing power to run demanding models locally. A meaningful portion of people who already own iPhones that Apple marketed explicitly around AI features are not getting the full version of what Apple just announced. This pattern should sound familiar if you have been paying attention to the tech industry lately. You buy a device based on a promise. The promise arrives. But the best version of the promise requires a newer device. The upgrade pressure is real, and it is intentional. The future is here, but the best version requires a newer phone. And the hardware is not the only catch. Some Apple Intelligence features, specifically those relying on more powerful cloud-based models for high-quality image generation, come with daily usage limits. Want more? iCloud Plus has you covered. Apple is not calling Apple Intelligence a subscription, but the ceiling of the included experience is not where the full experience lives. This follows the pattern every major tech company eventually arrives at. Start with free, make it essential, monetize the depth. Apple Intelligence comes with your device. The more powerful version comes with your iCloud plan. Chapter 4: The Third-Party Problem. Siri works beautifully when you live inside Apple apps. iMessage, Apple Calendar, Apple Notes, Safari, Apple Music. In that ecosystem, Siri becomes genuinely powerful. The personal context flows naturally. The actions execute smoothly. The experience feels coherent and effortless. But most people do not live exclusively inside Apple apps. They use WhatsApp, Google Calendar, Spotify, Gmail, Notion, Slack. Years of habits, workflows, and data that live entirely outside Apple's walls and are not going anywhere just because Siri got smarter. Apple says developers can integrate through app intents, and technically users can tell Siri to use a third-party app instead of the Apple default. But the default path of least resistance is always Apple's own apps. And when the AI is the layer making decisions about which app to reach for, defaulting to Apple apps is not a neutral choice. It is a deliberate architecture. Every time Siri defaults to Apple Notes instead of Notion, Apple Calendar instead of Google Calendar, Apple Music instead of Spotify, it is not just a feature preference. It is gentle, consistent, and compounding pressure towards staying inside the ecosystem. If Siri works best when you live inside Apple apps, then Apple Intelligence is not just assistance, it is pressure. Chapter 5: The Balanced Truth and the Bigger Picture. This is where the full picture matters, because this video should not become a simple anti-Apple argument. The reality is more complicated than that. Apple's version of AI may genuinely be the best experience for most people. It is private. Your data does not leave your device unless you choose it to. It is controlled. It will not accidentally take an action you did not authorize. It is integrated across your devices in ways third-party tools cannot replicate. And it is practically useful in the daily, human way that actually changes how you use your phone every week. The trade-off is real, but it is not hidden. The personal context requirement, the ecosystem preference, the hardware segmentation, these are visible if you look for them before you are already inside. The question is whether you look before you are already inside. Because once Siri knows your life, once your messages, calendar, photos, passwords, and habits are all part of the context layer, leaving does not feel like switching phones anymore. It feels like starting over, rebuilding every shortcut, recreating every habit, losing every piece of context that made the experience feel personal. That is the most powerful lock-in Apple has ever built. Not blue bubbles, not the App Store, not any hardware decision they have ever made. The most powerful lock-in Apple has ever built is an AI that knows you better than any other AI on the planet, because it has been living inside your pocket for years. Apple did not build the most powerful AI. They built the one with the best address, inside your life. Speaking of AI being sold as something bigger than it really is, the story of what is happening on the Windows side of this is just as interesting and considerably more dishonest. We already broke down why the AI PC label became the biggest marketing lie in consumer technology right now. That one is next.